And back to the big issue of the day, which is the deal, it seems, on policing and justice between the DUP and Sinn Féin. With me, a man tipped, perhaps, to fill the Justice Ministry post, should we have one. David Ford, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
You've had a chance now, by this stage, I assume, to look at this deal. Is it going to stick?
I think that's the key question. But I think there's more than just the justice issue around this. What we were told today was that a number of different and difficult issues have been decided by Peter Robinson and Martin McGuinness, the kind of things which have been holding up the work of the executive up to now. And I think the key thing that most people in Northern Ireland will want to see is the executive, which hasn't met for 150, whatever it is, days, getting down to work.
I think, yeah.
That Thursday sees real movement on tackling some of these difficult issues, especially around some of the warm homes points which have been emphasised so much, and that then results in real business coming to the Assembly. If we could start to see that, then we'd start to see the kind of confidence that we need to build in the community, that devolution actually means something, because at the moment it's very clear that most people in Northern Ireland are quite worried.
You've got a lot of catching up to do. The executive is due to meet every week between now and whenever the backlog has been cleared. How long do you think that could take?
Well, if you take it that they should have been meeting every other week for 6 months, that would suggest that they've got 6 months of meeting every week to catch up before they get to that point. And there are real issues where there's legislation needed to deal with important key problems, which hasn't been coming forward because the executive hasn't met, which is why Kieran McCarthy, as our whip, took a proposal to the Business Committee today that we should be upping the number of sittings of the Assembly. I have no doubt that my team has been doing its work in committees and has been doing its work in local constituency work. But what's clear is that we haven't been dealing with the big issues which should have been coming from the executive to the Assembly. And I think we may well need extra sittings. And that was what we saw as a constructive suggestion to see that we get the message out there. The executive has said it's going to work. Well, we're prepared to make sure that the Assembly works to help that happen.
Back in the summer, David Ford, you famously sort of counted yourself out of this justice job. Are you counting yourself in now?
I'm not counting anything on justice. I think if you look, and for the quick skim I had through the things, it's about the 35th point of 36 is appointing the minister.
No, you obviously had a close enough look then to count.
No, I was told there were 36 points and I can count 2 up from the bottom. I didn't count all the way through them. I may be sad in some respects, but I'm not that silly.
However, earlier on there is First Minister and Deputy First Minister to set out a process to identify a candidate for the post of Minister of Justice, and future Justice Minister publicly identifies.
But even that, I see, looking at your list, says Group 3. Mm-hmm. The key issues are the issues today, which means that we can start to tell parents of 10-year-old children what is happening to their children in the future. We can start to tell people looking for operations in hospital or even maternity services in hospital what is happening to their future. We can start to deal with the issues of warm homes and public transport and all those kind of things. I think that's the crucial issue for today. Now, there may be a route plan laid out which may or may not have 36 points because I didn't count them, but that's the secondary thing. We will play our part in being constructive and engaging in those, as we've been constructive and engaged in all the other issues we've had the chance. But I think the key issue today has to be to say to the executive, prove it. You've said you're going to deal with these issues, you're going to meet every week, that there are a number of papers coming forward. Well, that means that Thursday should be approving things, and we should then be in a position to even start extra sittings either before or immediately after Christmas so that we can start to deal with these issues.
But they put out a paper today saying that the future Justice Minister should be elected with a majority of unions and a majority of nationalists. Surely it's a relevant issue to ask if Alliance is going to be a candidate for that job.
Well, no, because there aren't actually candidates for the job. I mean, when I'm a candidate, I put my name forward. If there's a proposal to be made by the First Minister and Deputy First Minister, the initiative lies with them to start the discussions as to whatever the process was you outlined there and how we deal with that issue. And I've said we will engage constructively, and that's not an issue of whether we're getting a job. That's an issue of how is the job of devolving justice to be done to meet the needs of this entire society, to ensure that we protect the budget we have and don't get caught by the Treasury in what are potentially very difficult times. And I noticed when Sean Woodward spoke to you earlier, he was talking about things like historical inquiries. He didn't, as I heard him, mention the potential real difficulties we could end up with dissident terrorist activity happening at the moment. There are a raft of serious issues which need to be considered seriously, and that's far more than whose name is fitted onto a ministerial door at some stage.
OK, talking about the other issues, I mean, you mentioned education. It's hard to work out whether education is indeed one of those other issues that they've resolved. There's indications that perhaps in terms of Irish language or the MEAs, there might be some agreement there in the background. Do you see any indication of an issue like education, which has been such a big one for many people out there, that there are signs of agreement being reached?
Well, I haven't seen any signs of that recently. What I do know is Trevor Lunn, as our representative in education, has been seeking to engage with the Minister to try to talk to her in a reasonable way about the way the sort of issues which were addressed by the churches a couple of weeks ago could be taken on board. Because it seems to me there's a compromise zone around that. It's similar to things that we've been saying for some time. It's not identical. But I think the issue is, have we got a minister who's prepared to seek to build consensus? And have we got a committee that's big enough to respond to the minister if she does that? And it's easy for opposition members to play silly games. It's part of what I've described as our constructive approach in trying to see the way forward, because I don't think the parents of 10-year-olds will appreciate it if MLAs continue to play silly games with their children's future.
David Ford, many thanks indeed.
Thank you.